Last time, America had split itself in two. The South had stormed off, formed their own country, and elected Jefferson Davis as president. Lincoln was in the White House, furious and determined. And someone, somewhere in South Carolina, was about to make a very bad decision. That someone was Confederate General P.G.T. Beauregard. And his bad decision was firing cannons at a U.S. military fort. On April 12, 1861, Confederate forces opened fire on Fort Sumter. The Union garrison inside, outnumbered and running out of food, held on for 34 hours before surrendering. Nobody died in the bombardment, which was lucky, because that was about to change in a very dramatic way. Lincoln called for 75,000 volunteers to put down the rebellion. The South called this an act of tyranny. 4 more states, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and North Carolina, said, "That's it, we're out," and joined the Confederacy. And just like that, the Civil War had begun. Now, here's the thing about the Civil War that both sides got catastrophically wrong. Everyone thought it would be short. The South thought the North would give up quickly. The North thought the South would fold under pressure. They were both, to put it diplomatically, completely wrong. The first major battle happened in July 1861 at a place called Bull Run in Virginia. Wealthy Washington socialites actually packed picnic lunches and rode out to watch what they assumed would be a quick, clean Union victory. It was not a quick, clean Union victory. The Union Army was routed. Soldiers and socialites fled back to Washington in a panicked, tangled mess. The picnic baskets were abandoned. Nobody ate their sandwiches. Lincoln realized he needed a real general. He went through several. George McClellan, who was brilliant at organizing an army and absolutely terrified of actually using it. Then others, each one either too slow, too cautious, or too something. Lincoln was losing patience fast. Meanwhile, the war was spreading, west, east, rivers, coastlines, and it was getting bloodier by the month. In April 1862, the Battle of Shiloh lasted 2 days and produced more casualties than all of America's previous wars combined. People back home read the numbers and went pale. This was not what anyone had signed up for. But Lincoln had an idea, a big one. On January 1st, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring all enslaved people in Confederate states to be free. Now, technically, the Confederacy ignored this completely, since they didn't recognize Lincoln's authority. But it changed the entire meaning of the war. The Union wasn't just fighting to preserve the country anymore. It was fighting to end slavery, and that mattered enormously to the world, to history, and to the nearly 200,000 black soldiers who would go on to fight for the Union. Lincoln also finally found his general, Ulysses S. Grant, a man who was rumpled, quiet, and completely désolé, unbothered by the idea of fighting. Grant didn't retreat. Grant didn't hesitate. Grant just kept moving forward, and he ground the Confederate Army down like a slow, unstoppable machine. In the East, Grant went head-to-head with the Confederacy's best general, Robert E. Lee, a man so respected that the Union had actually offered him command of their armies first. Lee had declined, chosen Virginia, and proceeded to embarrass Union General after Union General for 3 straight years. But Grant was different. Even when Lee hit him hard, Grant just shifted and kept pressing. "I propose to fight it out on this line if it takes all summer," Grant said, and he meant it. The summer of 1864 was brutal. Enormous battles, staggering losses on both sides. The Confederacy was being squeezed from every direction. Sherman marched through Georgia, burning and cutting a path to the sea, destroying the South's ability to supply its own army. Grant kept hammering Lee in Virginia. The Confederacy was running out of men, food, and options. On April 9, 1865, at a small courthouse in a Virginia town called Appomattox, Robert E. Lee sat down across from Ulysses S. Grant and surrendered. The war was over. 620,000 dead. The bloodiest conflict in American history, fought on American soil by Americans against Americans. The 13th Amendment was ratified later that year, abolishing slavery permanently and constitutionally throughout the entire United States. It was, without question, the right outcome. It came at an almost unimaginable cost. And Lincoln, the man who had held the country together through 4 years of catastrophic war, who had issued the Emancipation Proclamation and refused to quit, went to the theater on April 14, 1865, just 5 days after Lee's surrender. He did not come home. John Wilkes Booth, a Confederate sympathizer who had watched the South lose everything, shot Lincoln at Ford's Theater in Washington. Lincoln died. The following morning, the nation that had just survived a civil war now had to grieve its president. Andrew Johnson took over. Reconstruction began, the enormous, complicated, painful process of bringing the South back into the Union and figuring out what freedom actually meant for 4 million formerly enslaved people. It was handled badly, then worse, then abandoned entirely by 1877, leaving a legacy of inequality and injustice that America is, frankly, still reckoning with today. So, what do we take from all of this? America fought the bloodiest war in its history over a question it had been too cowardly to answer at its founding. It took 4 years, 600,000 lives, and one president's assassination to finally settle it. The Union survived, slavery ended, and the country that emerged from the smoke was fundamentally, permanently changed. Whether it changed enough is a question worth sitting with. That's the American Civil War. If you made it to the end of both parts, thank you genuinely for watching. If this is the kind of history content you're here for, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. Drop a comment telling me which conflict you want covered next, because trust me, history does not run out of disasters to explain. I'll see you in the next one.